From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, May the 6th, 2019. We open, of course, with the situation in Israel, which appears to be quiet at the time of this report after a deadly onslaught of rockets from Gaza over the past weekend. A reported ceasefire brokered by Egypt early this morning appears to be holding at the moment after what the IDF reported was a total of 690 rockets fired at Israel on Saturday and Sunday. 240 of them were intercepted by the Iron Dome missile defense system. Others fell in open areas, but a number of rockets landed in Israel on vehicles, buildings, and homes, and 4 Israelis were killed. Early Sunday morning, 58-year-old Moshe Agadi was hit with shrapnel from a rocket that slammed into the yard of his home in Ashkelon. 68-year-old Moshe Feder was killed near Sderot when his vehicle was hit by an anti-tank guided missile fired from Gaza. Israeli Arab Ziad al-Hamamda was killed when a rocket struck a factory in Ashkelon yesterday. And last night, 21-year-old Israeli-American Pinchas Menachem Prezwazman was killed when a rocket slammed into his apartment building in Ashdod as he was running to its bomb shelter. Some 234 Israelis suffered injuries. Many were treated for shock. In response to the incessant rockets this weekend, the IDF struck 350 targets belonging to Gaza terror groups Hamas and Islamic Jihad, including, they tweeted, rocket launching sites, command and training centers, weapon facilities, as well as terror squads and operatives, noting that terror targets civilians. We, the IDF, target terror. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Hamas bears the responsibility not only for its own attacks and actions, but also for the actions of Islamic Jihad, and it is paying a very heavy price for this. He also said that Hamas was committing a double war crime by firing indiscriminately on civilians from among concentrations of civilians. And the IDF noted that Palestinian Islamic Jihad, for example, used a mosque in the middle of a densely populated area as a command and control center. The IDF firmly denied a report that came out of Gaza accusing Israel of the death of a Palestinian woman and her baby in their airstrikes. The IDF said the deaths were caused by a failed rocket launch in Gaza. Tweeting yesterday, Palestinian weapons caused the tragic death of a mother in Gaza and her baby. Hamas blamed Israel. Journalists amplified the lie. Condemnation of the rocket attacks on Israel were heard from the United States. State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus said, "We stand with Israel and fully support its right to self-defense against these abhorrent attacks." A spokesperson for European Union Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini said on Saturday night, the rocket fire from Gaza towards Israel must stop immediately, and expressed support for Egypt's ceasefire efforts. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres strongly condemned the rocket attacks and called for restraint from all parties. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, urged the UN Security Council on Saturday to designate Hamas as a terrorist organization. Jewish organizations, meanwhile, expressed their complete solidarity with the people of Israel. American Jewish Committee CEO David Harris tweeted this weekend, "This isn't a time for those wishy-washy calls on all parties to pull back. It's a time for total moral clarity and unflinching support for Israel's right to defend itself against genocidal terrorists." Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations, Chairman Arthur Stark and Executive Vice Chairman CEO Malcolm Hoenlein said now is time to speak out and be counted as Jewish lives are put in danger. They wrote, "It is deeply disappointing that news reports often equate Palestinian terrorists and Israel's defensive actions," stressing it is important to note that Israel's responses to the rocket barrages target military sites and rocket launchers, and that the IDF provides advance notice of attacks to allow for evacuation, while Palestinian terrorist rockets specifically are aimed at Israeli civilian targets, including hospitals, kindergartens, and private residences. Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt tweeted, "This indiscriminate firing at civilian population is inexcusable and must be immediately condemned by the international community." The Union for Reform Judaism and Central Conference of American Rabbis said, "We deplore the massive rocket attack unleashed upon Israel and its citizens by Islamic Jihad and Hamas, the terrorist clients of the Iranian regime, which controls the Gaza Strip." B'nai B'rith International's President Charles Kaufman and CEO Daniel Mariashin said the world is too silent as Israelis are under assault, noting that no other nation is forced to endure such attacks as part of its existence. Support for Israel was also expressed by U.S. ambassadors to a number of European nations visiting the country this weekend. As we reported to you, the delegation of ambassadors led by U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman and including Special Envoy for Monitoring and Combating Anti-Semitism Ilan Carr last week took part in the March of the Living in Poland. And yesterday they met with Prime Minister Netanyahu in Jerusalem, sharing their support. Carr was also interviewed by Reuters during the Israel visit about the current state of anti-Semitism, telling them that the United States is willing to review its relationship with any country, and certainly anti-Semitism on the part of a country with whom we have relations is a deep concern. Carr said he would be meeting with a number of countries and would clarify something that a lot of us who are involved in the Jewish world and a lot of us who are proponents of a strong U.S.-Israel relationship have known for quite some time. And that is, he said, that one of the chief flavors of anti-Semitism in the world today is the flavor that conceals itself under anti-Zionism. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, May the 6th. At 7 o'clock, it's the Wisdom of Dr. Ruth. At 7:30, Shachar Azani discusses the history of Zionism and advocating for the State of Israel. At 8, historian and author Gil Troy talks about the future of Zionism in America from the 2019 American Zionist Movement's Biennial Assembly. At 9 tonight, JBS remembers Israeli hero Joe Abudi, who fought in the Haganah during the 1948 War of Independence. At 10, Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Ron Dermer sits with Thane Rosenbaum to discuss the challenges facing Israel today. And coming up right after this newscast tonight, Mark Golub speaks with military correspondent for the Times of Israel, Judah Ari Gross, about the rocket onslaught from Gaza this weekend and where things stand now. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, May the 6th, 2019. I'm Teisha Bader.